on, raining sideways. Float planes, just leaving Ketchikan. I'm at the south end of the Ketchikan airport. Stream coming in. Tons of salmon coming up the stream. It's a mess. Incoming tide too, so I have about a 4-knot current to deal with and about a 20-knot wind. And did I mention the rain? Yeah, plenty of that up here in Alaska. There's fish out there. I might just go fishing, who knows. Better than paddling against this stuff. Wait for the tide to change. And should be going 4 knots the other way in about 6 hours. But pretty much the only thing dry is what's underneath my dry seat right now. Everything else pretty much got soaked on the boat ride up here. And can't wait for the first sunny day. Seems like it's a few days away though. And there Kaplunkin is. Pink salmon waiting to go up the stream back here. There they are right there. Little pinkies. All the pinkies you can stand to catch. I could fish for them, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Just put them back. The bait just about to jump in the boat, really. Every stream's full of them. I'm beached up about 4 miles, 5 miles south of Ketchikan. This is a pretty typical beach in Alaska. Shale, a little bit of water, fresh water coming down. Not actually what people think of as a beach, but tide's coming in. Wind's pretty good from the south right now, probably 15 knots out in the channel. And the current's against me, and as you can see, it's dumping rain. So pretty typical Alaska. Kind of odd half cove. There's an opening right there. Another barrier island. And out there in the sea, which was probably where I should be going around the island, we got whitecaps that look like they're about 4 to 5 feet high. Standing waves, actually, not just whitecaps. So that tells me there's a lot of current out there and a lot of wind moving against that current, and it's putting up a pretty nasty situation. So meanwhile, I've got this beautiful barrier island, which looks like a nice little landing pad. I'm going to crash there and have some lunch and see what happens when the tide changes in a few hours, because I don't think I want to deal with that out there right now. Can't really see it well on the camera, but it looks like a showstopper. Well, here it is. It's toward the end of day one, and just got a weather report, and sounds like it's blowing 25 knots to 35 knots in the channel that I need to cross from Gravina Island to Prince of Wales Island. The rain's let up. There's a big old ship over there behind that little island. I'm camped up on a great little beach, actually. Great little campsite. Somebody's already developed. Nice bay out here. It's pretty sheltered. And around that little point there is where I want to head, which right now is pretty much straight into the wind of about 20 knots, and I need to go about 9 more miles to make it to the end of this island, and then I gotta hop about 11-12 miles across the channel, which is fortunately blowing at 30 knots right now, and it's forecast to blow to 35 knots tomorrow. Alright, this first campsite found near a nice salmon river. You can see it running straight in. Some pink salmon jumping out there at the entrance. It's low tide right now, but the tide will come up about 18 feet in the middle of the night, all the way up to the seaweed you see right there. So I had to pull quite a ways to get up in here, but it's a cedar bog. Those are cedar logs. And the cedar bog back there where the tree is will keep me fairly dry, and it's like sleeping on a 10-inch thick foam mattress too, so it's really comfortable. I'm hoping when the tide comes up later this evening, I'm going to have some chance to hit some trout, maybe a pink salmon or two back in these holes. There's a couple more holes back there, but pretty good time. So first night, and it's going to rain all night and everything's wet. But that's the last one. Day 2, morning, and I got off the beach, broke camp pretty early, got on the water before 6 a.m. So making really good time. I laid down about 7 miles early on, just straight out. Decided to stop fishing and start paddling. My goal was to make it to that far spot of land you can see around that point. That's Prince of Wales Island, maybe. No, that's just the south end of Gravina Island. Around that point is Prince of Wales Island. And as the crow flies, I'm not that far away, about 10, 11 miles. Problem is, weather systems are, as the Weather Service says, complicated right now. There's lots of low pressures moving in, and they're calling for winds kicking up to 25 knots later this morning and 35 knots this afternoon, which is a no-go for me. So it looks like Gravina Island is where I'm going to be spending another day, waiting for the wind to calm down. Supposed to drop to 15 knots tomorrow morning, and then even drop lower than that tomorrow afternoon. So, well, you can see that dock in there, sitting about 20 feet above the water. It's one of those tidal docks, only good at high tide. I'm sure they got a floating ramp system or something that comes down. That sound is a big trawler who's just dropping his anchor in this cove. Offers some protection from the south wind. And there's another trawler behind him coming around the corner, and I know they're not coming in here because the fishing's bad. I know they're believing the weather report too, so everybody's coming off the water. It started out to be just a glassy, calm morning, but the calm lasted from about 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. and it's coming apart pretty fast now. There's weather over the mountains behind me. It's backing around to the south, and it's gonna hit here in another hour. And like they say, 25 knot winds raising up to 35 knots this afternoon. So this little cove might be my new home. It seems like the choice of fishermen, and hopefully there's some good fishing around here somewhere. I'm going to get some fishing in and maybe try to find a stream and do some freshwater stream fishing too. A little beach near the Cape of Gravina, south end, storm coming in of course. There's a pier that somebody built at one point. Looks like it just services big ships. This is a deep water port. Just a couple dozen yards offshore. It's 50 feet deep. Falls off on a pretty steep shelf. Some little islands which have nice steep beaches, which is favorable to me because I don't have to hike such a long distance. But this long shallow beach, obviously caused by a runoff of a river, so that gap in the trees, which is followed back, covered by fog now of course, there's a valley back there, so significant water flow. When the tide's coming in, I think I'm going to try to camp here and see if I can get up into that stream and maybe even navigate it by kayak. So this borders, oh, there's deer back in the woods. It's a deer, not a bear. This is more of a river than a creek that I've been passing the last couple days. First major river system I'm getting to, and there's a pretty big valley back there in the fog. Anyway, this is low tide, so there's a lot of seaweed here on the rocks, and there's a pretty substantial beach to get up, which means I'm going to have to kind of ride it up at high tide and leave at high tide tomorrow, which isn't going to be a problem if this weather system's moving in. I might not be leaving until tomorrow in the middle of the day anyway, so I think I'm going to try this and see if I can get back in there. Alright, now that's what I'm after. It doesn't look like a very big fish, and it's not, but that's a cod as opposed to a rock cod, which is all spiny and scaly and big chunks of flesh, and it's pretty good to eat. But these true cod I think are delicious, especially over rice, and I'm getting pretty hungry for a good protein meal over rice. So it's been a couple days since I've eaten anything but bagels and some store-bought food. Anyway, caught a lot of rockfish. Just got into a school of these little guys. I'm going to grab a few of them and make up a nice meal. I don't know what this is. Look it up later. Some kind of thread fin goby. Anyway, I'm not going to eat it, of course. Well, didn't want to believe the weatherman, but I wanted to make a run for it. If I would have done that, I would have been about halfway across, maybe less, when this stuff hit. This is just the frontal band of moisture. It's a low pressure system bullseyeing on us. It's going to pass right through. So the next 24 hours, tons of rain, winds to 35 knots. Time to hold up. I'm going to head up that river. It's across the bay over there. I'm in a little cove. I got some fish. I'm going to make up a big pot of food, chow down, maybe take some leftovers with me so I don't have to cook and camp in the same area because there's bear country over there, no doubt. Alright, this looks a little familiar. That's the pier, functioning how it's supposed to be at high tide, which is about 6-7 feet off the water. I'm about where I parked the boat on that beach where the river mouth is, except for now I'm in 10 feet of water, and the water is all the way up to the river mouth. That's about 3.5 hours of incoming tide. Tide range is a little over 16 feet right now. Well, here's the river mouth. Perfect bear habitat. I don't know if they're around. Seems pretty blocked off by a couple perfect fallen trees. Awfully strange. But looks like I can get a little ways up there if I can get around them. Well, here's the river. I think that's a bear lie across the way. And there's at least one of these caves. Nobody home? Nobody home? Yeah, well, I'm gonna sit out the rain. Might as well sit out in a hobbit hole. It is dry in here. It doesn't look occupied. Well, there's a river with no fish. This looks like a bear lie here. Tall grass and that is.